Hello, hello. It is Monday, week 2 of March. Can you believe it? Daylight savings time happened on Sunday. So I'm loving already the sunlight and I'm looking forward to consistent warmer weather. I'll just say it that way. I had a busy weekend, a great weekend. I was in Kentucky speaking at a women's event, and it was phenomenal. So Friday ended up being a prep day, kind of shut in day. So I owe you Friday. I am going to talk about sponsors and how men are able to get sponsors. What seems to be easier than women, women seem to get mentors more than sponsors and what that looks like what is the real difference between the two, and I want to yield time to do that. So be on the lookout. You may have to go to my YouTube channel for it, but today, this week, I want to kick off with leading strategically, and I'm going to use the giant tool that leaders define culture, because last week we spent time talking about leading yourself and really being aware of yourself, your voice, your strengths, your blind spots, your self preservation patterns, how you respond under stress, right? If you didn't listen to last week, go back and check it out, because this week I want to move outward into leading others, right? This month it's all about me talking through leading strategically. What does it mean to lead well? I'm just going to say to lead well. And so we have to know how to lead ourselves, as we say at Giant, Joy Consultant. Giant is where I was received certification and use a lot of their content. And if you're a coach or consultant, I'm going to put in a plug. I don't know any organization that provides the type of content that Giant does. And so if I say Giant, I am certified through Giant, and I also represent my company. But when we begin to think about how we lead others, we start with ourselves, and we've got to lead ourselves well first. So that was all last week. It really was about leading yourself, knowing yourself to lead yourself, being self aware, not to say this is just the way I am, but to say, hey, I'm willing to do the intentional work as a leader to be a better leader for those that I lead. And so today I'm using the tool Leaders Define Culture. And here's the important part: leaders are not just CEOs. They are not just executive directors. I'll pull that back up. I don't want you to get distracted. I want you to hear me when I say this. Uh, Leaders are not those just because they have a title. That's not how this works, right? So it's not just the executive director. It's not just the board chair. Leadership is influence. And whether you realize it or not, you're influencing those around you. If you're a mom, you're influencing your children. If you're married, you're influencing your spouse. If you're a leader in the community, you're influencing those that you lead. If you're a teacher, the students and the other teachers, the custodial staff. If you're an executive in a company, and you may be the person no one sees, when people interact with you, you are influencing them. We are all influencing the people around us. So when I say leaders define culture, that means supervisors define culture, managers define culture, team leads define culture, senior assistants define culture, the cook defines culture, the custodian defines culture, sub leaders define subcultures, and sub leaders define subcultures, right? So when we begin to look at this diagram, we see that where you see the red and green with the number 65, that could be the president, that could be a department head, right? We could have an org chart. But as you see, when we move down every layer of this diagram, the culture is never the same, because every leader and every layer of leadership is creating culture. I keep hitting the wrong button today. Every layer of leadership creates culture by influencing those they lead. So if you're leading 5 people, you're defining defining the culture for 5 people. If you are leading a department, You are creating and defining its culture in that department. Now, this means influence is not positional. Hear me, it's not because of your title. Influence is behavioral. It is how you show up, it is how you present yourself, it is the decisions you make that is shaping culture. And last year in the fall, I was taking a class on leadership, and they did a session on culture that really made me think. And I want to just share a little bit about what is culture really, because sometimes, because we may hear the buzzword in our culture, in our community, our family culture, our church culture, right? But really, I want to talk about what culture is and how it impacts your organization, your team, or even your family. Culture is what gets rewarded. I'm going to pause. It's what we reward. We're creating culture in that decision. Culture is what gets ignored. When we choose not to give attention to something that should get attention, to call out something that should be called out, that's creating culture. Culture is what get corrected. So if we correct someone a certain way and we consistently do that, even if it's wrong, we're creating that culture. Culture is what gets tolerated. If people abdicate, we'll talk about support challenge matrix tomorrow, and we tolerate certain behaviors. We tolerate people showing up late. We tolerate people not doing the work. We tolerate, you choose. That's creating the culture. So when you think about culture, culture is the emotional climate your leadership creates. Because culture really is how we feel and how we sense and how we see what's happening within our organization. And your internal world becomes the external experience of the people you lead. That's why last week was so important. Your internal world, how you see the world, how you live out the world, how you make decisions, what you do. Remember, we just looked at the things that define culture. What gets rewarded, what gets ignored, what gets corrected, what gets tolerated. Then this becomes their external world and how they live that out. That influences the people you lead. If you are steady, your team feels stability. If you are reactive, your team feels tension. If you are unclear, your team feels confusion. Hear me, all of this is culture. Instability becomes part of the culture. The tension, the reaction, I don't know what to expect, confusion, the lack of communication, that all becomes culture. And again, that's why week one mattered, because the culture you create flows from who you are, your fears, your insecurities, your value, your leadership style, how you handle conflict or not. All of these things define culture. Research consistently shows that organizations with strong leadership cultures outperform competitors in engagement, retention, and long-term performance. The data shows when we are culturally healthy, we will outperform competitors in engagement, retention, and long-term performance. Who wouldn't want that? Employee engagement increases significantly when leaders demonstrate emotional intelligence and clarity. Hear me, employees, people on your team, people in your community, people in your space, they want to engage. But we have to be intentional with our emotional intelligence, with our clarity, and with how we create culture. Culture is a performance strategy. And when culture breaks down, performance follows. When we begin to look at the five voices as we did last week, I want you to know that every voice can create a culture. Guardians can create a culture of structure and consistency. Think efficiency. Pioneers create a culture of movement and momentum. Think execution. Nurturers create cultures of safety and belonging. Think relationship. Connectors create cultures of collaboration and alignment. Think connection. Creatives create cultures of innovation and depth. Think future. But unmanaged voices create distortion. A guardian under stress creates rigidity. A pioneer under stress creates burnout. A nurturer under stress creates avoidance. A connector under stress creates ambiguity. And a creative under stress creates disengagement. So the question is not, what culture does my company have? That's not the question. The question is, what culture am I modeling for the people under my influence? Hear me again. Leaders define culture. What kind of culture are you modeling for the people under your influence? And you get to choose that every day. You get to demonstrate what you will tolerate. And what we demonstrate repeatedly becomes the expectation. What we tolerate repeatedly becomes permission, and that multiplies down the organization. So this week, I want to encourage you as you look at what is it that I am doing as a leader to define culture. What does this look like? Is it missed deadlines, emotional validity, passive communication? What is it that I'm doing? Modeling. Is it preparedness? Is it direct feedback? Is it accessibility? Is it accountability? I want you to think about it. And as you think about it, I want you to make sure that you as a leader are leading someone in experiencing a culture that is steady, that is strategic, and that is anchored. Because culture follows leadership at every level, and I want you to lead well. I'll see you tomorrow.